There's things around here. They're with us right now. Back in them old days, they didn't know what death was. When they buried them, they didn't embalm them. They put them in the ground fast. They die one day and they bury them that evening. And that's why they didn't know death. Now, they're still wandering out here today. A lot of the little ones passed away from disease. There's a lot of unmarked graves out at our cemetery today.
What's that? That's like a bone.
They are here. I'm not scared of them.
What the hell? Get this, Chris, get this, Chris, get this. You see it?
That is huge, whatever it is.
Look, it's moving, see it? What the hell? You see it?
They are here.
Big propeller. The big propeller over there. That's the plane. We take a 1939 jet experimental plane. We start out in the Mojave Desert. What's the year of this plane?
1939.
1939.
Yeah.
You got to be fucking kidding.
It flies.
Is this
It's
like Scotch tape?
Fabric.
Oh, fabric. Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, okay, great.
This is that's the fuel gauge.
Okay.
See, it's a cork.
This is an American plane, right?
Yes.
Okay.
These are good tires. See?
I wouldn't do that too much.
Okay, but it's all right. It'll fly.
Okay. How old is the plane?
70 years old.
Ooh.
All right, you got it?
I should have worn these Hollywood pants.
However you get in there, get in.
Goes like that.
All right. Oh. I'm glad I took the stick out.
Yeah. Oh my God. technology.
All right.
This chair is just tape.
It's all right. It'll hold.
Shit.
Okay, put your seatbelt
Okay.
on. All right. Now,
Yeah.
brakes. I want you to.
Well, hang on. How tight should the seatbelt
Just
be?
tight.
Huh?
Just put it snug.
Tight?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Snug.
Okay, snug. Okay.
Now, set
Well,
tall as you can.
Anybody ever fallen out of these things?
No, set tall as you can there. Okay, now put your heel right on the brake, right here.
Heel.
Put your heel right there.
Push
Now,
it down?
Yeah, right there. Push
Okay.
the other one over there, same way. Okay,
Well,
on the bottom.
Oh, I can already
right
see
there.
it, man.
See?
Yeah.
Now, don't move.
Oh, okay.
That's you hold them till I get in. Here we go. Got the brakes?
Yeah, brakes are gone.
We should be proud of who we are. We should be proud of our heritage. But when you have a generation before you that doesn't, first of all, doesn't know their heritage, so how can they hand it down? They don't know their family, so how can you be proud of something they don't even know about? And then when things are kept secret, when this is real touchy.
It's a complicated story. It's one that people need to, Americans need to be told, because I think most Americans have no idea at all about the boarding schools.
Inside these buildings, though, over the years, I come to learn over the years that these kids that went to school way back in the 40s and 30s that were small, they have passed on and they still occupy these buildings.
So they took me away from my grandpa and to wipe my native tongue and native ways.
I'd love to know, what did the schools do to kids that we were warned. This is our generation. We were warned. Don't go looking. Don't look up anything.
I think they thought they were doing something noble. I didn't agree with them.
They are here. I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of nothing. The old folks told me, said, don't be scared. Flesh is what you gotta be scared of. That can hurt you. Them ghosts are spirits. You go in the school, go ahead. But don't get scared. Just like I said, don't get scared. Pray tonight. Pray in the morning. Your eyes don't open up in the morning, it's all right. That's the way I pray. Them kids or whoever's in there, they're just curious about who you are, what you are. They see things, might see things on you. They probably see you just like we see you during the daytime at night. They can see you that way.
Whoa. Did it get bigger to you?
Yeah.
Come
Like
here,
Bigfoot?
please. But I'm audibly hearing a child now.
How old?
Not very old. I'm going to say probably around 5. I hear.
Female?
I can't tell. What I'm hearing, like I said, it's almost like laughter, and then I keep hearing a chant. I heard it whenever we was in the gym. No gashi ni taka, no naka hashanena taka, no naka. If this is you, you need to talk to us. Do you not want us here? Start snapping, girls.
There's ghosts out here. There's some probably standing right beside you. You don't even know it.
Michael, is that you? Are you playing games with us?
They used to have experiences about a young boy, this young man that they talk about that drowned over here. There's a boy named, I think his name was Sourweenie or something, that he drowned by a in a little pond out here by a bridge going to the old school.
Tell us the story of Michael. What exactly happened?
Well, the story that has been passed down is that Michael had been ice skating over on the end where there's a pond behind where the old school was, and he had fallen through the ice and he drowned.
He drowned whenever we were skating out there on, you know how it used to be cold, and went out there on the ice, and they tell you not to go out on ice. It was thin. He went underneath the water, and they tried to bring him out, but it was like hypothermia set in and took him under.
So Michael died in a pond.
Michael died in a pond. They told him, from what we've been told, they told him not to go out on the ice, that it wasn't thick enough, and they always had someone go out and check it. And him and some other children wanted to go out there and play. And whenever he went out on the ice, he got a little ways out and he fell through. And by the time the children went to get some help, they couldn't get him out. He was already down.
And I have a nephew that was a teacher here. He tried his best to get that boy. He wouldn't grab hold of nothing to pull it so he could be pulled out. He just went on under. And the fire department had to get that boy out. Today, he still wanders. He's wandering around. You know, it's good. No, let him wander. One of these times, someone's coming to a point where it's going to cross over.
I had brought my son, who at the time was 18, and my stepdaughter, who was 12 years old, down here, and we was walking across the bridge, and I encountered Michael's spirit on the bridge. And my son was anxious to get to see the spirit, but my husband had come walking down, and he wore these real thick sunglasses covering his eyes. And as soon as he come to the edge of the bridge, Michael's spirit just took off. I didn't know where he went. Look here, this is where you could see the limbs and the brush just being parted. My son and my daughter seen it, and it upset her so bad she started crying. It scared her because she wasn't really sure what she was seeing. She saw something go through the woods, the trees, and parting it back, but she couldn't explain it.
I've got the little boy that you asked me about. We've got him on tape. He's laughing, giggling around, but you don't see him.
Anita just heard laughter, and at the same time, Tina and I heard it too. It was over here to the right.
What did it sound like? What, boy, girl?
It was a child. Okay, child laughter. If that was you, can you please do that again? If you're trying to tell us something.
Here we go. Got the brake?
Yeah, brakes are gone.
Don't let them go.
There's ghosts out here. They're spirits. Only thing that hurt you is flesh today. They're around here. I come up here to tell them what I know from my heart. Nothing else, to hear stories from them other men.
They built a boarding school here in Chinle about 1909, and that's when they start going out and hunt out some kids in the canyon, kids that are 6 years old. When they see them way down there coming, my grandmother always tell me to go back in the box canyon back here and hide back there until they're leaving.
I want to tell you where I came from. A safe, warm, loving home. I was never hungry, I was never cold, and my parents took good care of me. I was well dressed, I had all that I needed, I was loved. And I was taken from that and put in a cold institutional environment, made to strip. My identity was taken away.
Our God-given ways, our native ways, everyday life, they took me away from all of that. So they separated us, took me to the boarding school where I wasn't allowed to talk my native tongue or practice my native ways.
Chris, I don't know if it's the house or not, I have to tell you. But that is the shit. have the kids' names written in the thing. So.
Often hair was cut in a public spectacle that served to demoralize and dehumanize them.
They cut off my hair, made me kneel in front of the door where everybody come in. Everybody make fun of me when they come by me, rub my head and laugh at me.
They cut our hair so that just the sides were hanging down. We had bangs and no hair in the back. It was shaved clear up. And to me, that just, it was really terrible to lose my hair. Here, my grandmother spent some time trying to teach me to take care of myself, my hair.
The restrictions and punishments that were meted out in these boarding schools were more than just mere disciplinary actions. They were often methods of humiliation for these students.
They took my clothes away and put me into some clothing that the boarding school provided for us. And they told us that we're never to speak Navajo. We don't ever sing in Navajo. We don't talk about the Navajo culture.
I did not go to school out here at Concho, but I did work out here. I worked for the BIA. When Chiefy and them were going to school, I was working with the maintenance out here.
Back in 1976 and 77, I was fortunate to go to school here when the school was open. And when we were going to school, there was the boys' dorm over here and the girls' dorm.
Tell us
This is the girls' dorm.
the hallway that he's going to. This is a girls' dorm.
This is the girls' dorm.
Okay.
And that's where all the kids stayed. That's where they ate. That's where there was a boys' dorm and a little girls' dorm.
Okay, this again is a dorm.
This is a dorm room. What they had to set up, they had the 2 beds, closet area, dresser that they shared. They had one great big bathroom per se that everybody used. It's basically, to me, it's just like a regular boarding school, you know, we went to. Okay, this is the boys' dorm, and each room over here is where the kids, they had 2 beds per room. You can tell they had 2 closets. They had a dresser that they shared. They were the roll-up beds, I guess you would fold-away, hideaway beds. They placed down. They had,
Oh, the numbers on here. It's 11,
yeah,
12.
these are, right here's the room numbers.
So this, how many rooms is there?
In this one, I'm not sure. I know it says 105, so I think there's like 2 something over there, so it's probably about 200 rooms.
Wow.
These buildings are all hooked together. They're in some way or form. You can see the long halls, and they.
And that's the exit or entrance?
Yeah, that's one of the exits that goes on. This place is set up where there's crawl spaces that goes all the way under the school.
Yeah.
And we've heard voices coming out of those. These are crawl spaces, and they're all over the school, and they're at least 3.5, 4 foot tall, or, you know, someone could get down there, but during the investigation a few times, we've actually picked up EVPs coming from there. Little kids talking, but there's no kids on our team. There's no kids around here, so.
Wow. Creepy.
There's stuff in these buildings that, well, I've been in them before, and I really don't care to go much in them anymore because I know what's there already.
What's there?
All kinds of ghosts.
Okay, we're getting ready to enter the annex of the Concho School building. Evidently, this is where some activity has been happening. We're going to try and get it, and hopefully we'll be able to capture something. The other team members have got different things to try and capture it, and I've got the thermal imager, so we're going to see what we can find.
You look in this one administration building back to the right of me. There's a long hallway. It used to be a administration building. There used to be a Head Start. We went in there one night, and there was like a, as we were coming out, there was like a black figure, and it was just floating back and forth. It was just like floating back and forth, and we were looking at it, but we kept on coming out, and we had flashlights, but you could just see it with your, just looking with your eyes. But it never would come straight toward us. It stayed way back there.
What the hell is that? Welcome to hell.
Heard that, huh?
Oh, I'm getting devil. That's the first time on that one.
Burn.
Kind of creeped out.
Okay.
When I first started walking over there, I started getting real chilly anyway before we even got over there.
So then what's the next thing we heard?
Devil and
Burn.
Burn.
And burn.
And you heard it?
Yeah, I heard it.
I recorded it. It said devil and burn.
Burn. And leave again.
Yes, and
now,
leave.
we already tried this out at the bridge, and it said out of the blue, pain, fell.
Fell. Pain.
These words were accurate towards the subject or situation over at the bridge. And here, it just didn't pick the same words again.
Devil and
Burn.
And burn.
But we were asking earlier, we had seen a white entity, which I'll use the word, at the other school. What the hell is that? Underneath the bleachers, we'd seen a black entity where the door was going crazy with keys. And it says devil burn here. Why is it getting black for? Burned. It's on fire. Burned down. You ain't seen none yet. Tell me about the bad things. You said bad things. What are they?
It's like these spirits come around, and they would come in there, and you would always see them go down the hallway or catch a glimpse of something walking down the hallway.
Is that?
So what would make that noise?
No. It could be anything. It could be anything.
And they used to tell us not to go to the bathrooms by ourselves. And I've always wondered why we never could. So one night I got up and I went down there to the bathroom. It was late at night, and used to be a mirror on that wall.
Nothing like a black mirror.
I come out of there, and at the end of that hallway, it was kind of dark. There was like a figure standing there. It was a little boy.
Whoa.
Something
just moved.
Michael, is that you? Are you playing games with us? Nogashi nitata. Can you give us another sign? We need to know that you're here.
Down low. Down low.
I just saw something move.
Yep, I caught it out of the corner of my eye.
Nogashi nitata. Can you give us another sign?
Right here you get temperature gauge. Okay.
Nogashi nitaka. No nakaha shenenataka. No naka. If this is you, you need to talk to us.
I thought I just saw something.
Me too.
Did you see something?
Yeah. I just moved fast though.
Did somebody just whisper?
No.
Somebody whispered.
Hang on. Let's get a look here.
Okay, the story behind this right here, down the hall on the left,
Right.
is where everybody's seen the little boy run straight down this hall.
We'd be over there and they'd take us out of bed, and there was a man named, they used to call him Squirt Black Owl. And he used to tell us about this young man used to come to the window and look in at him. And when he would go around the corner, try to catch him, go around that corner, he'd be gone.
Whenever they closed the school and they had security officers out to patrol, they would always say that they would see a little boy, not a girl, but a boy, run down this hall and go into that room to the left. Well, one of the security officers I had spoke with, and he was telling us that during school operation time, that it was time for summer to let out, and so he was doing his patrolling, and he seen a little figure, but he couldn't tell whether it be a male or female, run down the hall and went into that room. He's thinking, why would there be a child here? Because school, you know, there's no one here, school's gone. So he walks down there and goes in there, the room's empty, and the beds are rolled up. There's nothing in it.
We're in the girls' dormitory. This is where the team from RVPRI got a really good EVP. You want to explain it?
What it was is everybody, it was cold, it was windy. We ran inside the buildings and two teams getting together, right? They were introducing each other. What we did was we just split up into two teams. Half the team went to the boys' dorm, half the team went in here into the girls' dorm. And the two teams that came in, and a lot of us hadn't met each other yet. So when they came in here, they was introduced in each person. And as they were saying the names, we get an EVP that just says, knew him, knew him. It's kind of a melody to it. It really almost sung it.
But you guys got that here?
Right here, yes.
Where we're standing?
Yes.
I think I know you. Okay. Okay, hold on, let me get this one.
Was it a female or male voice?
It was definitely a female voice.
We're in a female dormitory.
In a female dormitory. And another EVP we got was down this hall and to the right. And as they were looking for pictures, they were trying to get whatever evidence they could with the equipment that they had. And we get a clear EVP that says, look right here. And that's just up the hall.
What Keith, we think? Want to look right there?
Yeah, let's go down here and see.
Let's look right there.
This is where I saw, it looked like a woman walk right in there, and I thought it was somebody who was part of the group. And I looked in there, took a picture, and there was nobody in there.
American looks at things, especially the spirit world, a lot differently than we do. You know, there's a lot more faith, a lot more belief in it.
Exactly. And see, we're right next to a burial ground also. So with us in here doing what we're doing tonight, we've had a dance basically, you know, you might call it a dance down there. You know, and we have a death in the tribe, within a tribal member. So the spirits they're active, they're agitated.
Because when you look across this road here, there's nothing there. I mean, you know, there's no trees, there's no nothing. This thing, whatever it was right there, and you could tell. I mean, it was something like a person standing there. Oh, shit. Look at that.
What is that?
I mean you no harm.
It's extremely cold, whatever it is.
See it on the funnel. It's to the very right of the screen.
Go to your right.
Straight.
See where her hand is? Right above her hand.
I see that. Oh, that black
The black feature.
shape like a body. Well, it seems like we've got some kind of a shadow person, and it seems to be getting more solid.
I'm moving around. Did it move?
Yeah.
Whatever it is on the other side of the road. In the thermal, we can see the water tower, okay? Yeah. The water tower is a totally different color. Right. You know, it was a different shade of blue. So whatever this thing was actually on the other side of this road. I mean, literally right here. Look at it, like it just sat down or something.
Yeah. Please, come this way, please. For me, please come over here. There is a dip that goes down in.
Right, I can see that.
Where I was standing.
That's where you stood down and you bent down.
Right, and then the road is up a little higher.
Here. This thing was right across from you.
Right.
That's what I said. That's why I asked how tall you were, because this thing was twice your size. That is huge, whatever it is. So what do you think it is?
It's a spirit, and I mean they're active because that is a burial site, it's a burial ground. You know, sometimes I feel that spirits can be territorial. You know, I believe that there are guardians of certain areas that, you know, whenever you cross over into that area, just like a territorial thing, that, you know, the spirit energy gets a little bit more active and can do a little bit more to you. And that's also the area where every time we come out, because this is like our investigation hub, and that's also the area that we get all of our activity from, is this corner area here. And my philosophy on that is because that is so close to the burial. I mean, that's an open area and it's right there, the burial's right there.
Right on the south side of this gym, used to be a main road come through here, but they found burial grounds there, burial bones. They had to get away from there. Not today, our complex is on burial grounds.
Fortunately for everyone, I think the demise of Custer's 7th Cavalry on the greasy grass really convinced a lot in the federal government that, look, that isn't going to work. We're not going to be able to do a military subjugation of American Indians. We certainly can't kill them all. And so then, you know, you had, I think, the third solution in the 19th century, and that was the education.
Between 1800 and 1870, two types of Indian education existed. There were tribal schools and there were federally supported schools.
Okay, since this is a boarding school and this is federal, you know, federally funded, now back then they wanted to do away with the Native American language,
right, so
Shine-Rapo language, and convert us to English.
When was back then?
1900s and all the way through. What do you get? See something in the way, okay, you want to try to demolish it.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way. Now they figured out they couldn't get rid of us, so now they're going to convert us to white. on up here into the Seger School on the back roads, and come along with me and we'll show you more. This happens to be the old water tower for the complex when they housed the children, since this was a boarding school. There's only so many remnants left since it was built so early in the 1900s, and over time time has taken its toll. This school has taken so many different forms and has been remodeled, as you could say, added on and bring it all up to different standards, as the times went on. You're looking down a corridor or outside hallway at the classrooms at the grade school from the Seger Indian School, built in the 1900s, that had boys and girls, grade school age, kindergarten through 6th grade, if I remember right, 8th grade usually. This is the second portion that was built. Some of the older ones have been torn down because they just gotten too old. This is an old school, it's an old historical site, and it's been around for a long time for the Cheyenne and Arapaho people, as well as other tribes in this area. The definition of an Indian boarding school is you have to have a certain amount of Indian blood in order to go to that school. If a quote-unquote white person tried to get into this school, they cannot, because they do not carry a CDIB card, which is a certificate degree of Indian blood, and it has to be on paper and able to prove it through genealogy. So in other words, your parents had to be on the rolls, your grandparents.
Kids lived here too?
Kids lived here on this quote-unquote campus, and they had both males, or boys and girls, dormitories, and they had different age groups they would put them in. Basically, just come by, drop them off, and leave.
So, why do you think maybe some of these children are still roaming around here? I mean, there was a lot of deaths here because of smallpox, we know, mass grave, but is there anything else?
This place, being a boarding school like it is, they had to have corporal punishment, and so that turns around and put fear into kids.
Things out here in these buildings, and buildings that are being built now out here, new and old. We have ghosts that occupy even the houses, and there's sightings out here that people see. Little kids see a boy and a little girl, and you can hear singing.
Paranormal kids, hear them laughing, hear them crying, you can hear them footsteps, you can hear them running. Kids are kids. They want to have fun. They don't always want to have their, thumb put on them all the time or can't do anything. The kids that went here were from poor families. Their parents had many kids, and they couldn't take care of them. tribe would help pay for their socks and their shoes and clothing, some of their school supplies. You were here until Thanksgiving break and Christmas, then in the school year.
There's things around here. They're with us right now. A lot of people don't believe things like this that go on, like these little kids that's around.
We used to experience a lot of stuff like that around here. And then there'd be some kids outside late at night playing, like maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You could see what everybody would be accountable. Just like these buildings here. And there was a lot of things went on out here that people, like in our younger generation, when we were young, we used to wonder about. And then some of the students, I guess after a while, it used to bother them, and they didn't stay too long. They would end up going home, going back to their folks, wherever they lived at, because they used to say it was too scary out here.
There was a gym.
And I didn't want to get hit no more. Numerous times they put on this big huge white cone, put on there, it says dunce. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know English. They put it on me, make me wear it all over. Kids would laugh at me.
They were sometimes forced into belt lines. Especially the boys would line up on two sides, and the boys would pull their belts out, and then whoever the offender was would have to run through the belt line while the others took a whack at them. And the boys were told not to let up, but to really hit that child hard as they ran through there. So they'd slap their head and their back and their buttocks and their legs as they ran through the belt lines.
Had some sores on my butt and my knees, my hands, my head, from being beaten too much. And every time I turn around, they ask me a question. At first I'd grunt. They'd hit me because I grunted and I wouldn't answer. It was pretty hard. I couldn't do nothing. Whenever I'd do nothing, they'd hit me. Everywhere. Everywhere. All the way down.
So what are they going to do with someplace like this?
There ain't no telling. They're probably just going to let it fall down, and one of these days they'll demolish it, or let nature take its course and demolish it.
Oh, nature's working on it.
And it's working on it real hard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from walking around, there's several houses here.
There's some old houses, the old government houses that house teachers, the superintendents. When you get into these places, and it's kind of like forced housing, you know, you're so desolate and away from everybody.
So you either walk or you have to have a horse or something else, right?
The majority of the time it's going to be walking.
Yeah.
There's just not going to be that many horses around, because then the kids are going to turn around, steal the horses and go home.
A lot of people come out here and they say that they hear children crying and screaming in this whole area. They see and they hear little kids. You know, it's like the children want relief.
They are here. I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of nothing. The old folks told me, said, don't be scared. Flesh is what you gotta be scared of. That can hurt you. Them ghosts are spirits.
They can hear them laughing and having fun. Seems like whenever they have the powwow, that's whenever the children seem to get restless, their spirits get restless, like they want release. Confirmation 100%, but I feel this is where it's at. One of the beliefs is that you bury children near water and they have everlasting life. I feel this is where they're at.
So right below our feet is probably where it is?
This location. This is right, this location.
And how many children would you believe are here?
I'm going to say 200 to 300, if not more.
200 to 300?
200 to 300. I can't say that they're in pain. They're like lost.
Lost?
They're lost.
Oh.
The energy I feel here, it almost makes you as if your equilibrium's off.
I know, I feel like I'm gonna fall all of a sudden.
Yeah, the energy's real strong. It's real strong. And the more you get closer into where the tree lines are, the more it's grabbing. Mr. Hawk, we're not, no disrespect, Brother Hawk.
So what is it?
We mean you no disrespect, my brother. We ask for your blessings.
Yeah. Are they telling us to go?
Usually hawks don't act like that.
Yeah, they seem pretty protective of the area.
Very protective.
Well, maybe we should go then.
Oh, he is not happy.
Well, he's right above our head.
He is not happy.
I come up here to tell them what I know from my heart. I had to pray before I come up here.
Okay, so what we want to do after we heard that growl out there.
Did you just hear that back
Yeah. Sounded like a cat.
here? You don't think it sounded like that? I didn't either, but to me it sounded like more like a baby crying.
Screaming. It sounds like
children crying.
Big cats make god-awful sounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a heat signature. Whatever it was just moved to that and then moved right back. So whatever it is behind those trees.
What I see was big.
We were going almost to Aztec, and something come out. It was like a man run across. Hit it with that van. Then we went on a little further into a town. We pulled up a little get-go place. Oh, we got out and looked. There was blood dripping down, like slimy stuff. And it stunk bad. Oh, it stunk. I never smelled anything like that before. We went inside, got something coffee. All the kids used the restroom and went on their way. And we told my brother-in-law up there, Nashville, he said it was a skinwalker that you hit. It's bad through that area right there. They'll run across. You just hit one.
With the big, tall, hairy thing, which we don't know what it eats, and he likes to drift off, and then the nice big cat that's out there somewhere, and we know that eats meat.
We're gonna come here to the gymnasium and see if we can find what was breathing and stuff in here. Is that right, Adrian? Okay, well, let's go see if we can find something.
Oh shit!
Yeah. What's going on? Nothing. Like a
Get
claw.
back over there.
Scratching.
Okay, so like I said, let's go see if we can capture anything over where you heard the breathing at. That's over here in the corner, right? Adrian, tell me, what y'all capture here in this area right up here?
Well, we came and just spread out along this wall for some quiet time, trying to take in the surroundings, try to hear anything or feel anything, however it goes. I was standing here and just being quiet, and I heard a sound which sounded like somebody cold and shivering, the kind of breathing you make when you're really cold and like wet. If I were to guess, it sounded female to me, but I can't explain it.
Looks like December 9th.
Okay, so when he heard that noise, the breathing sounding over here, what did you guys hear?
Tina and I were sitting down at the other end of the bleachers, and we were hearing actually a woman talking in a real soft spoken tone. And it lasted for a little bit, and we thought it was coming from behind the bleachers. So I had gotten up and I went behind the bleachers, and I could still hear it. And I came back around and I looked at Adrian, I'm like, what the heck? You know, I can hear it. It sounds like it's projecting from behind the bleachers. So he came on this side of the bleachers, and I went on that side, and we were both in the center, and I couldn't hear it until I come back around here, and you could hear it.
And we knew we were alone because actually when we came in, me, Daniel, and Joe walked underneath the bleachers, and there was nothing. We walked all the way through.
So was it like any of that noise that we heard a while ago, like the growl?
It wasn't a growl sound. Like I said, it sounded more like a shiver, like somebody had been wet and they're really cold.
Right now?
Like, yeah, whoa.
Just a breeze, wasn't it?
I'm hoping.
But that's the first breeze we felt since we've been in here.
Exactly, that's
What the hell? Get this, Chris, get this, Chris, get this.
Turn around.
Look at this. You see it? Look in the window. Look, it's moving, see it? Yeah.
Who's walking on the bleachers?
Somebody is.
No.
Bullshit.
Bullshit, we're listening.
Get a light up there.
Nobody's on the bleachers.
Okay.
Yeah, hear that, coyotes?
Dude, you got the weapon. You go back there.
Since you're weaponed out, why don't you be real close to us in case it's a human or animalistic thing.
Put your left foot over on that one. What was it like on that?
Don't see any animals.
That's pretty dangerous back there. And I don't think all of us can go back there at once. Why don't you take the thermal? Let's see if we can capture something with the thermal. You know, if it's something alive, it'll turn up red.
Yeah.
But not all of us are going to be able to get back there at the same time.
Not all of us want to go back there.
All right, come on out there. Oh, come on out. I'm a lot bigger than you are.
What's your wire there?
I don't see any animals.
Okay, get in there, mate. Yeah, turn flashlights off.
Quiet. Let's capture this.
Let's do this.
It's harder to see on our cameras with what's going on. Ooh, it's moving. What the hell is that?
I don't know what that is. It's moving. Look, look, see it? Got something. See it?
On the left hand.
Yeah. Right above the black.
Yeah.
See that white spot?
Yeah, I do.
Uh-huh.
It's moving.
It's hot and it's moving. That means it's probably something alive. Red, shiny light down there, quick.
There's nothing down there.
There's nothing down there.
Is it still picking up on that? Is it reflecting off it?
No.
It's a person.
Yeah. You can see their head, shoulders, arms, legs. I don't know what that is.
What we're seeing seems to be like a little white energy body that's bouncing around, almost like a angel.
Yeah, you can see it clear on the image. We've got the dual vision going on the thermal. It rose up.
It's up to the ceiling. It's going through the bleachers.
Yeah.
These little kids and a lot of these people, back in them old days, when they buried them, they didn't embalm them. They put them in the ground fast. They die one day and they bury them that evening. A lot of the little ones passed away from disease. And that's why they didn't know death. Now, they're still wandering out here today. There's a lot of unmarked graves out at our cemetery today. Little dips in the ground, that's the graves out there.
People don't understand human beings. All people with 5 fingers are human beings. If they cut themselves, their blood is red, no matter what color their skin is. They have feelings just like you. When you say something bad to them, it'll hurt them, they'll cry.
Because we are the people. We just need to be accepted.
These young kids, a lot of them don't know this death today. We don't know it as grown-ups, but they sure don't know it. They're little guys, little people, little boys, little girls. But they do need to get to the other side.